The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on Design Thinking, your roadmap to next-generation app development and modernization. Without further ado, I'd like to get right into the presentation for today. And to do that, I'd like to quote probably the most successful design thinker of all time, none other than Steve Jobs. And as you can read on the screen here, he said that most people make the mistake of thinking design is what it looks like. People think it's this veneer, that the designers are handed this box and told, make it look good. That's not what we think design is. It's not just what it looks like and feels like, but design is how it works. So I'd like you to keep in mind this quote from Steve Jobs as we go through the presentation today, because I think it really sums up the perspective that's needed to really succeed in design thinking and make phenomenal products and services. Now, I'd like to underscore this game-changing idea of design thinking by highlighting 3 companies off the bat who have practiced design thinking and are truly revolutionary because of it. First is Uber Eats, and design thinking truly transformed the future of food delivery. Uber Eats was an intuitive app that offered personalized recommendations, seamless organizing and ordering, and real-time tracking. And since its inception, millions have savored the fruits of Uber Eats' mission to make eating well effortless for everyone, everywhere. Meanwhile, Netflix's triumph lies in its relentless pursuit of innovation. In 2011, it astutely recognized viewers' hunger for original, unconventional content that was unavailable on traditional networks. Then in 2016, it again revamped the user experience, incorporating snappy trailers into its interface that has only increased its standing in the crowded streaming market. And finally, Airbnb's founders practiced empathetic travel. They intuitively grasped what the users actually sought in temporary lodging. So armed with high-quality cameras, they showcased every aspect of rooms and its special features like pools. And by highlighting neighborhoods, their design thinking approach swiftly doubled Airbnb's revenue, shifting their focus from scalability to user-centric solutions. These are only some examples of companies who have really successfully used design thinking in the past. And the importance of this is that you can also be like these renowned companies if you truly take to heart design thinking and its principles. A little bit about the agenda for today. First, we're going to run through design thinking principles. So we're going to talk about how it works and also potential pitfalls to avoid. A little note there, avoid is spelt bad.
Yep, I just fixed it.
Great. Next, we'll run through core competences approach and run you through some case studies about how we can adapt design thinking to your specific needs. Next, we'll make it real, and we'll actually talk about how design thinking can work for you. And finally, at the end, we'll run through a little bit of the future of design thinking and how artificial intelligence and new technologies will change the entire landscape of the business world. And of course, we'll leave you with some takeaways and go into a little bit about how core competence can help you. So without further ado, I'd like you to meet your speakers for today. First, we have Dr. Jimmy Jain. He is a thought leader on the Forbes Coaches Council, and he is a coach that helps you unlock your innate potential to rediscover you. Jimmy, thanks for being here. Blah, blah. Next, we have Christian. Christian has over 20 years of experience in web, mobile, and marketing technologies. He's worked with some of the biggest, most respected brands in the world, deploying innovative programs to improve the customer experience and operational excellence. Christian, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Rohan. Looking forward to presenting. And thank you to all the attendees as well.
Next, we have Cheryl Joseph. Cheryl has 13 years of experience in the IT industry, having started her career as a coder. And today, she handles the delivery of large-scale programs by understanding technology, that translates customer needs and thus is a winner of managing client expectations. Cheryl, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, Rohan.
So now I'd like to just go over some session guidelines, some housekeeping right before we begin. There will be a question and answer session after the main presentation. You can ask questions at any time using the panel on the interface, and all lines will be on mute during and after the session. There will also be a survey and a very, very important email that will hit your inbox at the end of the session. So please keep your eyes peeled for that. And without further ado, I'd like to give it to Dr. Jimmy Jain, who's going to take us off and talk about design thinking principles and how it really works.
5 minutes. Good.
Well, one question before we switch to my session. Are we all going off camera at this point?
Do you
and
want
then coming back on for the interstitial slide, or are we staying on camera? Because in the past, we've gone off camera at this point.
In the past, we have done that where when a person individually is presenting, only his video comes up. The problem now is, Christian, because we haven't practiced this part with Jimmy. Do you still want to do this? Because it will be awkward if someone doesn't do it correctly. So shall we take a call about this tomorrow?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just, I think it's going to be a little more awkward for us just to be sitting there nodding our heads for 10 minutes.
No, but I really listen to you guys. Each of you are
Well, I
really.
think we could be on camera when we present, but I think it might be a little more awkward if three of us are just sitting there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. So do you want to go off camera?
Yeah,
think
so
we
what
should
I
go
would
off
say,
camera, yeah.
yeah,
Can you
so what I would say is,
practice
Shiral,
Yeah.
yeah, we can go back one more thing. So Shiral, I know you haven't done this before. Just hit that camera button after Rohan turns the floor over to Jimmy, and then hit it again when Rohan introduces you again.
Got it, yeah.
So when Jimmy comes for his session, all of you will be off camera. And then while the last slide of Jimmy is happening, Rohan will pop up and Jimmy will hand over. And then at that time, even he will disappear and then Christian will come in and say, now it's over to you, Christian.
I need to
That way,
make sure he knows that also. I'll just tell him that tomorrow at least.
yes. So that's the problem, no? And that's why I was saying, let's keep everybody on the, but it's fine. Let's do what we are
Yeah, we'll tell Jimmy.
I just want to try the video piece here, so that's why I'm kind of on this slide. I think the next
Sure,
slide is
go
the
ahead.
video.
It disappeared for a bit. Looks like you have to click
You guys
it.
can see, right?
We can, yeah, but it's prompting you to click it to hear the audio for some reason.
To a broader set of using problems. Say that again. Say that again. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, so it came up, but it
Yeah.
disappeared for a bit. And then you have to click it.
I'm not embedding this in the PPT. It doesn't allow you to share the audio with that.
I don't see an option to share audio. It has only keyboard and mouse options.
And it doesn't play at maximum quality either.
Yeah.
So I think, when we go to Jimmy's slide on the video, Jimmy just needs to say,
Yeah.
we're gonna play a video. The screen may flicker for a second.
And then he also has to say, like, you'll have to click the screen in order to hear the audio. Yes, just
I
make
didn't
sure.
have to click the screen. The audio came out. The video played for me perfectly. I did see that little bit of black when you go from the slide to the video.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I heard the audio perfectly.
So I also
I
heard
heard the audio.
the window was like a smaller window than I was normally getting earlier. So
I
that's
wonder if that's the resolution of the video.
How about now? How about now? Do you see full screen?
This is the resolution of this video. Pramila, we can't do much.
But failing quickly and
So,
cheaply
Steve,
in order to.
one more thing you have to remember that you will be muted automatically when a video is getting done.
Correct. I was also muted, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody will be muted. I'm just putting this image, what I'm getting, with like a side pop-up the moment you show me the video and you move out. So, I mean, there's nothing we can do on this, but this is how it appears.
Yeah, it's the resolution of the video, Clara.
I see.
Okay. Just to test. I just wanted to.
You're coming back on the slide, right? For him.
Okay, so this is all Jimmy, right?
All Jimmy.
Okay, this is where Rohan, you need to take over.
From keys, skills to complement.
Think that I am Jimmy, and
Yeah.
this is what you should expect. Blah blah blah. Key skills to complement. Then what else? Now with that I want to hand it over back to Rohan. Rohan, you have to come from this. What should you expect? This is the last slide for Jimmy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim, for a very insightful opening capture with some of the details of design thinking and the process and its benefits. Now it's up to Christian, who will demonstrate how you can adopt these principles into practice. Christian, you can take it away.
Thank you, Rohan and Jimmy. At this point, I'm sure some of you at least are wondering how design thinking can actually work for you in the real world when your budget and the overall scope of the project is usually approved before you begin. It creates a classic chicken and egg scenario. Design thinking is a process and principles to generate innovative solutions for what to build, but what to build is usually decided well in advance, at least for most companies. Before we show you how to solve that potential challenge, it's important to note that every industry will have its own unique use cases, but there will be certain similarities. Of critical importance is taking advantage of the two-step divergent and convergent phases throughout the problem and solution definition that you see illustrated on the screen here. The goal is to begin with broad-based research, then synthesize it into a clear definition of your needs. Once that clear definition is established, you diverge again to expand upon your hypothesis before the final convergence on the ultimate design of the solution. In the banking and financial industry, for example, you might begin this process with a lot of existing data generated based on your transaction history. But in healthcare and manufacturing, gathering the data you need could potentially be a part of the project itself. Likewise, in the financial industry and healthcare, you could have a reasonably clear idea for a product from the beginning. For example, a new app or customer portal, a new onboarding process, or some outcomes-driven research platform. But in manufacturing, there could be additional technical considerations across your plants and supply chains that need to be worked out before you can finalize the design. In all of these cases, however, the diverge and converge two-step process helps ensure a positive outcome. A typical project, however, doesn't necessarily follow this process. We all know the phases you can see on the screen. We call them the 4 Ds: discovery, design, development, and deployment. You're probably asking yourself, where does design thinking fit in? The short answer is just about everywhere, so long as you leverage the principles we've been talking about today strategically and judiciously. If you open the floor up to everyone in the company, you'll have too many competing demands to manage a successful project. But if you open it up only to a select few, you won't have enough input and a large enough range of ideas. Balance, when it comes to design thinking and technology projects, is as important as anything else. In our view, balance is achieved by having the right perspective. Software doesn't exist for its own sake. It doesn't even exist for the company's sake. In reality, it exists to augment your users, making them more productive, efficient, and accurate. In other words, to paraphrase a famous president, ask what it can do for them first and foremost. Always remember that most users aren't technical. They are focused on the outcome for them specifically, how the software meets their needs, and whether or not it ultimately makes their lives easier. This means you need to make sure the user is at the center of everything you do, from defining your objectives in plain language based on the desired outcome, to identifying requirements based on the actual experience of the user, and leaving all of the in-depth tech talk to the actual developers. You also need to make sure that you are working the process instead of having the process working you. Development in general tends to be the longest phase of any project. For complex projects, it could run to 2 years or more, but approached correctly using an agile methodology offers substantial benefits. In a sense, agile is the logical extension of design thinking throughout the development lifecycle. Both processes are iterative, with multiple touch points and plenty of ability to innovate. Successful companies will take advantage of stand-up calls, sprint planning, grooming, and retrospectives to adapt to the latest needs of the project, needs which almost undoubtedly shift during the development lifecycle. Agile will let you respond in almost real time, and the use of user stories rather than technical requirements keeps the focus on what the software actually does rather than how it technically does it. In addition, scheduling based on increments of time rather than units of work, what we call time box scheduling, allows you to plan and adapt as needed throughout the project, bringing in new features that are more relevant now and removing features that aren't as relevant. Perhaps the best way to understand how design thinking can work for you is to illustrate it with an example of a real-world project for a real customer with real users. In this case, Core Competence was tasked with reimagining a mission-critical system used by well over 100 people at a global organization. The system in question processes around 400,000 transactions annually and is considered a critical part of their customer experience. But it was based on older software and design standards, was hosted on a mainframe, all of which made it cumbersome to use, slow, laggy, buggy, and very difficult to upgrade and maintain. Before we began reimagining the system, however, we partnered closely with the client's leadership team to ensure we had a solid foundation for success. This included the creation of clear, actionable goals, the different teams that would be engaged throughout the life cycle, information gathered from key team members in advance to organize various work streams and identify key focus areas, and the overall rules that would govern the engagement if something unexpected comes up, which of course it frequently does. We understood from the beginning that we cannot be everything to everybody with a single application, so we confirmed what we were trying to achieve and who we were trying to achieve it with. This gave us the benefit of having a fixed conceptual target, but how we ultimately got there and what we proposed to meet that target was given complete freedom in that context. The guardrails we put in place were critical, but also exceedingly simple. First, we couldn't reorganize the company or impact processes outside the core team. We were limited to the application in question. We couldn't make changes to other applications or change the data used for the various integration points, except in very limited predefined cases. Essentially, we can come up with whatever innovative strategies and user experiences we wanted for this particular application, but we had to maintain the integrity of the overall organization and technology ecosystem. Iteration and innovation were integral to the project, baked into everything we did and every final deliverable we created. This was achieved with regular sessions focused on each of the main focus areas in a rotating manner. These topics included user experience, automation opportunities, and data and the display of insights. Core team members were also assigned homework to ensure the facilitated sessions were well planned and effective. In addition, a governance model was leveraged where key stakeholders met weekly to ensure the project was on track and producing the necessary innovation. Collaboration throughout was, of course, critical. The workflows, processes, and key aspects of the user experience were all developed and refined in real time together using a combination of web-based software and sharing tools, then distributed in a more polished form for offline review and approval. Believe it or not, the entire project was completed virtually over the course of 4 months, and we did not actually meet in person until we presented our findings to the leadership team. Detailed deliverables are one thing, and there are over 300 pages of content developed as part of this project, plus an all-new UX and process flows. As we have seen in this webinar, however, achieving the project's goals are another. In this case, the deliverables were all developed to support the objectives that were identified at the beginning, and every decision we made was ultimately evaluated based on whether or not it would achieve those goals. The result was a completely reimagined user experience, more than a dozen new features, and a more scalable model to better integrate teams and offline processes, all of which fully supported the original objectives. Of course, nothing is more important to most organizations than being able to prove return on investment. That a dollar spent on a new system will result in even more dollars saved. We closed out the project by surveying and conducting tests of users to identify how much time the new user interface alone would save them on a daily, monthly, and annual basis. The initial results of these efforts were so significant that the leadership team was hesitant to present the raw figures directly to management because they feared they wouldn't be believed, settling ultimately on a lower figure. The full range of savings across the core team is presented on screen now, but this return on investment accounts only for a small percentage of the savings because it doesn't consider other improvements across increased collaboration, onboarding, training, and support, all of which should generate significant return on investment over the long term. Now we want to play you a video so you can see a little bit of the system in action. Please be aware your screen may flicker a little bit as the video comes up.
Thank you, Christian, for that deep dive into how we have practiced design thinking in the past. Now I would like to give it over to Cheryl, who's going to talk about how design thinking can work for you, those who are watching right now. Cheryl, you can take away.
Thank you, Rohan, for the introduction. Thank you, Jimmy and Christian, for setting the context and diving deep into the concepts of design thinking, by also showcasing how we have been able to take design thinking to our customers. We have spoken design thinking in conversations across tables, and it sounds great in theory, but how can we experience design thinking and its practical adaptation for work day to day? How can we empower our teams and our organization to adapt to its principles? Pramila, all along, it's still the previous slide.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Maybe we have heard some of this before, tried design thinking principles, not knowing the coined terminology, succeeded and failed. Still the previous slide, Pramila. Yeah, this one, yeah, okay. We would also have felt that not all of us are Steve Jobs operating on an Apple-type budget, therefore may not be able to reap the benefits of design thinking. But that's not true. The truth is that every project within an organization can adapt to the principles of design thinking. Every phase of a project or program lifecycle could map itself to the principles of design thinking. Be it a technology project that has a user interface and supports a process workflow, or a completely backend driven data project with simple to complex queries, there's always a good chance you can reap the benefits of design thinking. We've included a few examples here. Certainly, custom app development, modernization, or product development makes us visually understand how design thinking can be helpful. But anything that touches your customers and impacts your experience is always a candidate. Your core systems can also benefit from this process, or even your automation projects. If you are in the middle of a project now or are considering starting one from scratch, ask yourself the simple question. Are we empathizing with our customers with absolutely no prejudgment on what they need? Are we going in with a blank slate to capture the requirements? Ask the same question to your customers as well on how they have gathered the needs of their very own users. And you might receive answers you completely did not anticipate. But you are hopefully now armed with tools to change perspectives. Of course, every organization is unique, as is every team within the organization. We cannot in one webinar tell what is best for your needs or your company, but we can initiate the thought process by suggesting valuable questions you can ask yourself and your colleagues to determine how design thinking can help your organization and within. The questions on the screen now are not intended to be comprehensive, but just to illustrate how to approach a potential project and generate feedback. The goal is to get beneath the surface, to understand what is really holding you back, what will move you forward, and whether you have explored the space of all potential solutions to determine the optimal path. There will always be unknown unknowns, but that doesn't mean you cannot use design thinking to get ahead of them, ensuring your success today and tomorrow. In the next slide, I've taken to a quick illustration of how I've adapted design thinking as a way of life. Right from being a working mother and understanding the needs of my teen daughter by putting myself in her shoes, multitasking for the family by understanding and empathizing with the needs of the home, to being an associate director, working for my customers and empathizing with them on every aspect of the program through all phases, including initiation, commercials, gathering requirements, assessing the right project methodology and tech stack that best suits their needs, considering the mighty legacy the organization holds and the future of it, thus dedicating the best of skills at the right hour of execution, control, and support. To quote a quick example, in a very recent project implementation, the customer wanted to use the best out-of-box features of the system, but felt hard to fit in all their needs. Being an implementation partner, we should have ideally pursued for maximum use of the default features, with the customer especially inclined towards it. But through personalized interviews of the users, having ideating all along with them, helped us liaison with the project sponsors on certain needs that had to be customized to ease the use of application for users who are day in and day out applying the system. To ponder over as closing comments for my thoughts on this webinar, I'd like to quote renowned design thinkers that we spend a lot of time designing the bridge, but not enough time thinking about the people who are crossing it. And it's not us versus them, or us even on behalf of them. For a design thinker, it always has to be us with them. Thank you. Handing it over to Rohan.
Thank you, Cheryl, for that dive in. Now I'd like to give you a quick
Rohan,
flavor.
are you going to have some personalization done here? Like you're going to do it tomorrow?
I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Why is there audio in this slide? What is that? Does anybody know?
Audio? No, it's just the animation on your video.
Oh, okay, interesting. I was just confused. Okay. I'll make some personal thing on the day tomorrow.
Okay.
Sure. So now I'd like to give you a little bit of a flavor.
A clock thing. I think 5 minutes you took earlier. Then Christian took 14 minutes. Then I think yours was less than 9 minutes or 8 minutes. So we just keep that, okay, in mind. Rohan, over to you.
Okay, great. So now I'd like to just give you a little taste of what the future of design thinking entails, and especially how artificial intelligence and other new technologies are going to completely change the app development and modernization landscape. So let's get into it. So prototyping in the past has always been a very crucial phase in app development, and traditionally, as you can see on the screen, prototyping involves manually creating wireframes and mockups to visualize the user interface and functionality. Now in the past, all these wireframes had to be manually written out or printed out or typed out or something like that. And more recently, things have gone digital. But as you can see from the image there of the digital prototype, it's still very human labor intensive. And that is slowly going to become something of the past. So another trend that you're going to see very much in the next couple of years is AI-enabled prototyping. So the advent of AI has revolutionized the prototyping industry, making it faster, more efficient, and smarter. So AI-driven tools analyze your project requirements and generate wireframes automatically. They can understand natural language descriptions and convert them into visual prototypes, as you can see on the screen there. We entered some adjectives like expensive, designer, pastel, patterned, and gave some other trims and features like a camp color. And within minutes, within seconds really, this AI algorithm outputs a shirt of the same kind. Now this has a couple of different advantages. First thing is obviously speed. AI can generate prototypes in minutes rather than hours or days. Another one is accuracy. AI tools understand complex design instructions, which reduces misinterpretation, which can happen between two humans, but it's less likely to happen between a human and a computer. Another big advantage is iteration. So prototyping with AI allows rapid testing and modification, which improves your final product. Another thing is collaboration. So team members can provide input in real time, therefore enhancing the collaborative process in prototyping rather than just one person going back and doing it and working on it by themselves. And finally, another real advantage of AI-enabled prototyping is that it's very user-centered. So AI-driven prototypes align with user expectations, therefore enhancing that user experience when creating products. And the next slide is another company called Framer, which is their tagline is AI generated, human curated. As you can see, it's a very easy user experience. There's just a text box where you input text like if you wanted to create a portfolio page for your photographer friend, you just write that one line and immediately within seconds it generates an entire portfolio website with all the text and all the photos and everything. So going forward, another huge thing that's going to change in the next couple of years there's going to be a rapid adoption of insights from big data. So in the digital age, there are vast amounts of data that are generated daily. But right now is the time we're seeing that all this data is actually being used and we're actually extracting meaningful insights from this data. And that's become a really critical aspect of decision making. And one company that practices this really well is none other than Netflix, which, as you can see on the screen, it collects all these data points and really lets no data go to waste. And they really use that to their advantage, because a wild stat that we discovered while preparing for this webinar is that actually more than 80% of all content streamed from Netflix are discovered through the platform's recommendation system, which is really drawn and built on all of these insights that they collect from big data. And you may be thinking, Netflix does this really well, and how can I use this Netflix approach almost in my own company? And as you can see in this next slide here, we have a big data spectrum that we have operationalized at Core Competence and is our approach. If you can see from the it goes from the bottom up. So at our first entry point, we kind of help you with reporting and visualizations. This ranges from things like sales forecasting, channel reporting, inventory reporting. And once you're good on that aspect, we move you up the spectrum. So we then, with these reporting and visualization tools, we build you purpose-built dashboards and analytical apps that make use of those reporting tools and help you with customer management, P365 loyalty, campaign performance. Once you are good with that, we move you again up to your advanced analytics. This is things like customer insights, segmentation, campaign analytics, recommendations. And then we move you to the top of our big data spectrum, which are the big things like AI, ML, deep learning, kind of really trying to make your data work for you and leverage all this technology for your benefit. And now the third thing I want to leave you with is intelligent and automated testing. And this is going to be very commonplace in the design thinking industry in the next couple of years. So traditional testing methods, they often require significant time and significant resources. However, intelligent automated testing leverages AI and automation to streamline the testing process. So this is a modern testing approach that, again, uses AI and automation to enhance testing efficiency and accuracy. And there are a number of benefits to this intelligent and automated testing. For example, it runs faster testing cycles, which speeds up the development process and gives you accelerated time to market. There is also higher test coverage, which reduces the risk of undiscovered issues. So you make sure that all the potential issues that you can run into are ironed out. Also, it improves accuracy, which reduces human errors. And finally, last but not least, there are a number of cost savings due to the reduced manual testing efforts. So again, this was a couple of things to look forward to in the future that is going to become more commonplace in design thinking industry. And with that said, I'd now like to give it to Christian, who is going to run us through some key takeaways and how we at Core Competence can help you who are listening to this webinar implement your design thinking process.
Thank you again, Rohan, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. We are in the final stretch here. Obviously, we've covered a lot of ground today, and it may be difficult to distill it down to just a few points, but we've learned that design is more than how something appears and how it works in the real world. Design thinking principles in general prioritize end users, customers, and stakeholders to drive innovation. These principles can be applied to almost any technology project. Your organization can benefit right now from adapting them as a way of life. We do expect next generation technologies to augment these principles, but not replace them. And finally, we are here to help if you should need it. Core Competence is a total technology transformation services provider with 20 years of experience. As trusted partners of Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, and others, we drive value and deliver excellence, serving mid-sized to enterprise level clients, specializing in full stack ERP, CRM, cloud, data, and web and e-commerce solutions. Our engaged service lines focus on front-end technologies related to customer engagement and providing a 360-degree view of your customers. Enable drives operational excellence by improving business functions using best practices and enterprise technology solutions. Accelerate propels your business forward with cutting edge and emerging technologies. The overall goal is to solve business challenges and gain competitive advantage for our customers by maximizing their return on investment in technology solutions. We can work with your team to assess the organization's current digital landscape and strategic objectives. Together, we can identify areas where digital transformation would have the most impact. We facilitate brainstorming sessions and workshops to generate innovative ideas and concepts for digital solutions. We help you create rapid prototypes and conduct testing with end users to gather feedback and refine concepts into actionable solutions. We help implement, integrate, and develop emerging technologies, including AI, the Internet of Things, data analytics, and cloud-first solutions to create innovative and efficient digital products and services. We also provide tailored custom solutions that meet the specific needs and unique goals of your organization. Lastly, we offer training and ongoing support to ensure your organization's teams can effectively implement and maintain the digital solutions you already have and the ones that we create.
That's it, right?
That is it. So Rohan, do you want to just automatically come back there? It seems odd for me to turn the floor back to you. I can just keep the camera on and then you can do the questions, or I can do the intro.
I think the key takeaway, everybody should come, Christian. What do you say? Because
yeah, that makes sense. Everyone come on for the key takeaway. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Key takeaway, everybody comes on camera. And one important thing is I'm just timing, like without all of you, it's already showing 37 minutes. And if you add Jimmy also, then that's going to be 47 minutes. This whole thing is supposed to be a short and sweet 45 minutes. So do you think, and you want to reconsider removing some more pieces of, I think Cheryl is okay, but do you want to reconsider getting some more slides out of your, Christian, your thing?
Yeah, I honestly think, I hate to say it, but that industry use cases slide is taking like 2 minutes and I don't know if it's doing anything.
No, but I think that's the most important one, no? I feel
from my side, I can cut the first AI-enabled prototype slide I can do, and I can just look, that slide can just be the framer example. What do you think about that?
I think you can, but Clara, is there a reason why you think that slide's so important? It doesn't really say anything.
No, maybe you can keep the slide, cut down the things, whatever you're saying. Instead of 2 minutes, make it just 1 minute. You can say 1 minute there, and then some of your slides for your case study also you want to see. You can just jumpstart to what you want. I think.
Yeah, but the problem is if I cut it down, then I'm removing any reference to industry.
Pramila?
You have to explain the divergent convergent piece.
Go back to Christian's piece, please.
Yeah, it is slide 25.
So go back to the entire aspect, the whole thing.